Welcome back to story time. I hope you're ready to relax. This will be the final part of Beauty and the Beast. I'm really excited to see how it ends. Once again, please get really nice and cozy and enjoy the story.
"Alas," said she with a sigh, "there is nothing I desire so much as to see my poor father, and to know what he is doing." She had no sooner said this, when casting her eyes on a great looking-glass, to her great amazement she saw her own home, where her father arrived with a very dejected countenance. Her sisters went to meet him, and notwithstanding their endeavours to appear sorrowful, their joy, felt for having got rid of their sister, was visible in every feature. A moment after, everything disappeared, and Beauty's apprehensions at this proof of Beast's complaisance. At noon she found dinner ready, and while at table she was entertained with an excellent concert of music, though without seeing anybody. But at night, as she was going to sit down to supper, she heard the noise Beast made, and could not help being sadly terrified. "Beauty," said the monster, "will you give me leave to see you sup?" "That is as you please," answered Beauty, trembling. "No," replied the Beast, "you alone are the mistress here. You need only bid me be gone, if my presence is troublesome, and I will immediately withdraw. But tell me, do you not think me very ugly?" "That is true," said Beauty, "for I cannot tell a lie. But I believe you are very good-natured." "So I am," said the monster, "but then, besides my ugliness, I have no sense. I know very well I am a poor, stupid, silly creature." "'Tis no sign of folly to think so," replied Beauty, "for never did a fool know this, or had so humble a conceit of his own understanding." "Eat then, Beauty," said the monster, "and endeavor to amuse yourself in your palace, for everything here is yours, and I should be very uneasy if you were not happy." "You are very obliging," answered Beauty. "I own I am pleased with your kindness, and when I consider that your deformity scarce appears." "Yes, yes," said the Beast, "my heart is good, but still I am a monster. Among mankind," says Beauty, "there are many that deserve that name more than you, and I prefer you just as you are to those who, under a human form, hide a treacherous, corrupt, and ungrateful heart." "If I had sense enough," replied the Beast, "I would make a fine compliment to thank you, but I am so dull that I can only say I am greatly obliged to you." Beauty ate a hearty supper, and had almost conquered her dread of the monster, but she had like to have fainted away when he said to her, "Beauty, will you be my wife?" She was some time before she durst answer, for she was afraid of making him angry if she refused. At last, however, she said, trembling, "No, Beast." Immediately the poor monster began to sigh, and hissed so frightfully that the whole palace echoed. But Beauty soon recovered her fright, for Beast, having said in a mournful voice, "Then farewell, Beauty," left the room, and only turned back now and then to look at her as he went out. When Beauty was alone, she felt a great deal of compassion for poor Beast. "Alas," said she, "'tis a thousand pities anything so good-natured should be so ugly." Beauty spent 3 months very contentedly in the palace. Every evening Beast paid her a visit, and talked to her during supper very rationally with plain good common sense, but never with what the world calls wit. And Beauty daily discovered some valuable qualifications in the monster, and seeing him often, had so accustomed her to his deformity that, far from dreading the time of his visit, she would often look on her watch to see when it would be 9, for the Beast never missed coming at that hour. There was but one thing that gave Beauty any concern, which was that every night, before she went to bed, the monster always asked her if she would be his wife. One day she said to him, "Beast, you make me very uneasy. I wish I could consent to marry you, but I am too sincere to make you believe that that will ever happen. I shall always esteem to you as a friend, endeavor to be satisfied with this." "I must," said the Beast, "for alas, I know too well my own misfortune. But then I love you with the tenderest affection. However, I ought to think myself happy that you will stay here. Promise me to never leave me." Beauty blushed at these words. She had seen in her glass that her father had pined himself sick for the loss of her, and she longed to see him again. "I could," answered she, "indeed promise to never leave you entirely, but I have so great a desire to see my father that I shall fret to death if you refuse me that satisfaction." "I had rather die myself," said the monster, "than give you the least uneasiness. I will send you to your father, and you shall remain with him, and the poor Beast will die with grief." "No," said Beauty, "I love you too well to be the cause of your death. I give you my promise to return in a week. You have shown me that my sisters are married, and my brothers have gone to the army. Only let me stay a week with my father, as he is alone." "You shall be there tomorrow morning," said the Beast, "but remember your promise. You need only lay your ring on the table before you go to bed, when you have a mind to come back. Farewell, Beauty." Beast sighed as usual, bidding her good night, and Beauty went to bed very sad at seeing him so afflicted. When she waked the next morning, she found herself at her father's, and having rang a little bell that was by her bedside, she saw the maid come, who, the moment she saw her, gave a loud shriek, at which the good man ran upstairs, and thought he should have died with joy to see his dear daughter again. He held her fast, locked in his arms, above a quarter of an hour. As soon as the first transports were over, Beauty began to think of rising, and was afraid she had no clothes to put on. But the maid told her that she had just found in the next room a large trunk of gowns covered with gold and diamonds. Beauty thanked good Beast for his kind care, and taking one of the plainest of them, she intended to make a present of the others to her sisters. She scarce had said so when the trunk disappeared. Her father told her that Beast insisted on her keeping them herself, and immediately both gowns and trunk came back again. Beauty dressed herself, and in the meantime they sent to her sisters, who hasted thither with their husbands. They were both of them very unhappy. The eldest had married a gentleman, extremely handsome indeed, but so fond of his own person that he was full of nothing but his own dear self, and neglected his wife. The second had married a man of wit, but he only made use of it to plague and torment everybody, and his wife most of all. Beauty's sisters sickened with envy when they saw her dressed like a princess, and more beautiful than ever, nor could all her obliging, affectionate behavior stifle their jealousy, which was ready to burst when she told them how happy she was. They went down to the garden to vent in tears, and said to one another, "In what is this little creature better than us, that she should be so much happier?" "Sister," said the eldest, "a thought just strikes my mind. Let us endeavor to detain her above a week, and perhaps the silly monster will be so enraged at her for breaking her word that he will devour her." "Right, sister," answered the other. "Therefore we must show her as much kindness as possible." After they had taken this resolution, they went up and behaved so affectionately to her sister that poor Beauty wept for joy. When the week was expired, they cried and tore their hair, and seemed so sorry to part with her that she promised to stay a week longer. In the meantime, Beauty could not help reflecting on herself for the uneasiness she was likely to cause poor Beast, whom she sincerely loved, and really longed to see again. The 10th night she spent at her father's, she dreamed she was in the palace garden, and that she saw Beast extended on the grass plot, who seemed just expiring, and in a dying voice reproached her with her ingratitude. Beauty started out of her sleep and bursting into tears. "Am I not very wicked," said she, "to act so unkindly to Beast, that has studied so much to please me in everything? Is it his fault that he is so ugly and has so little sense? He is kind and good, and that is sufficient. Why did I refuse to marry him? I should be happier with the monster than my sisters, who are with their husbands. It is neither wit nor a fine person in a husband that makes a woman happy, but virtue, sweetness of temper, and complacence, and the Beast has all these valuable qualifications. It is true I do not feel the tenderness of affection for him, but I find I have the highest gratitude, esteem, and friendship, and I will not make him miserable. Were I to be so ungrateful, I should never forgive myself." Beauty, having said this, rose, put her ring on the table, and then laid down again. Scarce was she in bed before she fell asleep, and when she waked the next morning, she was overjoyed to find herself in the Beast's palace. She put on one of her richest suits to please him, and waited for evening with utmost impatience. At last the wished-for hour came. The clock struck 9, yet no Beast appeared. Beauty then feared that she had been the cause of his death. She ran crying and wringing her hands all about the palace, like one in despair, after having sought for him everywhere. She recollected her dream, and flew to the canal in the garden, where she dreamed she saw him. There she found poor Beast stretched out, quite senseless, and, as she imagined, dead. She threw herself upon him without any dread, and finding his heart beat still, she fetched some water from the canal and poured it on his head. Beast opened his eyes and said to Beauty, "You forgot your promise, and I was so afflicted for having lost you that I resolved to starve myself. But since I have the happiness of seeing you once more, I die satisfied." "No, dear Beast," said Beauty, "you must not die. Live to be my husband. From this moment I give you my hand, and swear to be none but yours. Alas, I thought I had only a friendship with you, but the grief I now feel convinces me that I cannot live without you." Beauty scarcely had pronounced these words when she saw the palace sparkle with light and fireworks, instruments of music. Everything seemed to give notice of some great event, but nothing could fix her attention. She turned to hear dear Beast, for whom she trembled with fear, but how great was her surprise! Beast had disappeared, and she saw at her feet one of the loveliest princes that eye had ever beheld, who had returned her thanks for having put an end to the charm under which he had so long resembled a beast. Though this prince was worthy of all her attention, she could not forbear asking where the Beast was. "You see him at your feet," said the prince. "A wicked fairy had condemned me to remain under that shape until a beautiful virgin should consent to marry me. The fairy likewise enjoined me to conceal my understanding. There was only you in the world generous enough to be won by the goodness of my temper, and in offering you my crown, I can't discharge the obligations I have to you." Beauty, agreeably surprised, gave the charming prince her hand to rise, and they went together into the castle. Beauty was overjoyed to find that in the great hall her father and his whole family, whom the beautiful lady that appeared to her in a dream had conveyed thither. "Beauty," said this lady, "come and receive the reward of your judicious choice. You have preferred virtue before either wit or beauty, and deserve to find a person in whom all these qualifications are united. You are going to be a great queen. I hope the throne will not lessen your virtue or make you forget yourself. As to you, ladies," said the fairy to Beauty's two sisters, "I know your hearts and all the malice they contain. Become two statues, but under this transformation I still retain your reason. You shall stand before your sister's palace gate, and be it your punishment to behold her happiness. And it will not be in your power to return to your former state until you own your own faults. But I am very much afraid that you will always remain statues. Pride, anger, gluttony, and idleness are sometimes conquered, but the conversion of a malicious and envious mind is a kind of miracle." Immediately the fairy gave a stroke with her wand, and in a moment all that were in the hall were transported to the prince's palace. His subjects received him with joy. He married Beauty and lived with her many years, and their happiness, as it was founded on virtue, was complete.
And with that, we conclude Beauty and the Beast. I really enjoyed this version of the story. I thought that the way they dealt with the sisters in the end was pretty brilliant. To give them a way out of their situation, but only if they admitted they were wrong, was a very interesting way to deal with them. I also thought that it was really cute that Beauty was still looking for the Beast even after the prince appeared. I think that the chemistry between the characters was really nice. I wonder what other stories this author has written. I might try and see if there's any others I can read on the channel. I really hope you enjoyed and that you were very relaxed. I'll have all of these episodes up on a playlist so that you can listen to all of them at once. I hope you have a really nice sleep, and good night, alcoholics.